Hello to my earth signs, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Welcome to the Virgo full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello Capricorn Rising, welcome to your horoscope for the Virgo full moon, happening on February the 24th at 11:31 p.m. if you're in the southern hemisphere with me. So it's going to be a great, giant, big full moon around midnight. Feels pretty magical to me, and it's going to be a beautiful emotional release for us. I wonder if there's something of a cumulative sort of effect for you at this time as well, Capricorn Rising. I'm looking at your 9th house, which is where we travel. It's where we journey to expand our mind and where we learn lessons in spirituality, where we finesse those topics. And eventually in our lives, we also tend to publish them and put them out there. So there's a lot of good stuff that we can hold on to at this time. I'd be fascinated to know about your spiritual practices, about what you seem to be feeling ready to move forward with and to share, where your journey has taken you up until this point. I'm really fascinated to know. Hopefully this moon will work as some sort of like exclamation point on those topics. If we think about Virgo in its earth relationship with you, we think about mutable earth, which is far more malleable than perhaps some of the rigidity that we come up against in Capricorn and in Taurus. Taurus is very sturdy. Capricorn, very strict. Virgo is mutable earth, so it's kind of like clay. There's something that kind of is interactive with it. In tarot, we look to the Hermit when we consider Virgo, and we might see you in this card when talking about the importance of repetition and of study and of practice. In the 9th house, to have the Hermit come and say hello to us, you can see the image of someone who has separated themselves from conventional society, from a place of responsibility, a place of sociability too. We see someone that knows the importance of focused study, of commitment. We see someone that has closed the door perhaps on some of these other areas of life, but not to shut themselves away and to hide, but to learn and to work with the magic that is so potent and available to us in Pisces, in the opposite sign of Virgo, but to take those magical possibilities, those qualities of imagination and of invention, and turning them into something really practical and useful and real, making the making it real, making all of this concept, these gaseous, untangible qualities of life. Spirituality is a funny one, isn't it? It can sometimes be so inexplainable. The Hermit and Virgo are on their way to explaining those ideas. They're working with their opposite sign Pisces to bring them about into something real, something that we can hold. And so, is this you at this time? Think back to September of last year. The last time that we spoke about Virgo, you and I, we were speaking about sowing seeds in our 9th house. Where do we wish to journey to next on pilgrimage? Where do we wish to absorb and learn about philosophy and spirituality? Where do we wish to put down what we know, what we've studied, to share it around, to take in students perhaps? A full moon feels like a moment of culmination of a cycle. It feels like this is the time to either hit send and publish that article or publish that dissertation, or to find yourself in the area that you've journeyed to and look around and be like, wow, I did it. Incredible. This beautiful character is holding the star in their lantern, And from our conversations last horoscope about Aquarius and the star, about the star representing our hope, representing our humanitarian spirit, you can see why the hermit is laboring away and working so dutifully. It's for a sense of humanity. It's a sense of coming together and revolutionizing systems so they benefit each of us, finding the different tissue that connects our spirits together. The moon is sitting at 5 degrees of Virgo, and so therefore we qualify our hermit with the 8 of Pentacles. Again, there's precision, dutiful diligence to task. It's not always glamorous in Virgo because there's so much work to do. There's so much finessing of the spiritual idea, of the magic. Pisces is very freewheeling, very intuitive, very spontaneous. Virgo, not so much. They take all of that energy and they alchemize it into something that we can hold and feel. I like this for you, Capricorn Rising. I like this freedom, this reprieve that we can feel from Pluto in the first house. This journey to the underworld is having a little break. We've got one more chapter of that in September, we know, but we're prepared for that. This feels like you have been learning so much about yourself, your essence, your spirituality, and you might be in some place where either there's a hunger to absorb more, to go out there and collect more information, to learn more about this, or where you feel qualified, where you can start to spread it around, start to share it, start to pick out the people that you can see that have that common skill, that common goal, and bring them together. There's a feeling of like fusing things together. There's a feeling of collaboration that is after the fact of this dutiful solo study. Come and share with people of like mind. That's what the journey in the 9th house is, the house of the gods. It's to seek out other folks that have a similar idea, a similar philosophy on life. Exchange notes, share techniques, all of those different kinds of things. Again, it's a full moon, so it's a cumulative culmination. And if we do look back over to Pisces, where the sun is, so the sun, we just entered Pisces season, the magic's about to flow, spotlighting the moon, it's actually being flanked by Saturn, which is containing that magic, creating that magical boundary in the house of the goddess, the 3rd house for you on your birth chart. And also Mercury is bringing the information. Now, Mercury is not comfortable in Pisces. They can sometimes get a bit confused in Pisces. And so let's sort of simmer down and understand that feeling too. Perhaps locally, in the place where you live, it might be more of a creation of boundary that you need to maintain in order to reach so high. And this isn't to say that we're sort of like, forget the rest, climbing the ladder to great success and prestige, but there is something that feels kind of grand about this full moon. It's highlighting something that is global. It's highlighting something that's bigger than your village, even though this is where a lot of the good magic can be found, in that sort of boundary setting, in that private world, being with time enough to focus on your spiritual practices, your philosophies. You can learn a lot about astrology in the 9th house too, just as a little side note, if that's one of the topics that you're really invested in at the moment, if that's something that really is sort of singing to you. The 9th house is the house of astrology. It is the house of that kind of ancient philosophy coming together in an academic kind of measured kind of way. We can't have that without the intuitive magic of the 3rd house too. Pisces in the 3rd house on your birth chart, it just looks so lush. It looks so beautiful. We'll celebrate more of that as we move through and as we celebrate the new moon in Pisces. But right now that spotlight is on the greater world. So did you set a goal for yourself in September? Was there something about coming together or making a journey to be with in the physical folks that perhaps you had learned from, your mentors? Is there something about this grand feeling of unity that you can identify with as I'm talking about this? Capricorn Rising. Now also, let's switch gears and let's have a little look at Aquarius. So we know that Mars and Venus went through their initiation into Aquarius, past the gate of Pluto, the Lord of the underworld, changing form for Mars and for Venus. Well, 2 days before this full moon, they will have conjoined. Mars and Venus will be at the same degree in Aquarius, coming together, the great lovers of the zodiac meeting up. This is your second house of your values, your access to resources. So there's something about a changing guard here. There's offers being presented to you in your second house of your resources and values. They look very different to perhaps the way they used to. This initiation into revelation, revealing things that were beneath the surface, bringing them out to show everyone. It's re-establishing your definition of what it is that you do value. And there's something sort of connective and lovely about Venus and Mars coming together here. They're also speaking quite fondly over to Jupiter in Taurus in your fifth house of self-expression. So they'll both be forming square at one point or another after this full moon. But a square from Jupiter is bounty. It's an exaggeration. So I feel that there's something about your expression, the way that you're creating in this life too, that is getting some extra steam, some extra fuel at this time, informing your values and also how you resource yourself. It does feel really abundant. It does feel kind of that there could be some mixed messaging too, obviously with Mercury in Pisces and that confusion, and it does feel volatile, but I would look to this full moon as a grand celebration of what you've committed yourself to in your spiritual learning. Doesn't matter about what stage of the game you've reached or where you feel you're at this time. I'd look at it to celebrate. I'll get you some tarot real quick too, Capricorn Rising. Yeah, I like this one. I know I always go to it, but it's my special magic deck. There's 3 cards to cap it all off. If there's a tie that you can find or a link that you can find to September of last year to now, and if what was sown back then feels like it's culminating now, please let me know. Write me a comment. I'd love to see how this astrology is playing out in your life too. I feel the beautiful definition of what actual strength means. In tarot, we get taught so much, and strength doesn't mean brute force. Strength doesn't mean violence. Strength doesn't mean domination. Strength means gentility and softness and vulnerability, doesn't it? And all of these qualities you've been mastering over this time. You've been in face-off with yourself, Capricorn Rising, but you've managed to take the offer right here, the match, the spark, magic again, after perhaps a time where it didn't feel so magical. Now the trick is, because obviously that's a lot of enthusiasm to sort of feel moving through your mind, the aces always bring with them a bit of a surge, don't they? The trick will be is to register where your energy is vested now. Not every offer that you receive you have to take. And there might be something that you can feel about being pretty attractive at the moment. You might be attracting lots of different kinds of energy, different personalities. And so it'll be up to you to decipher who is welcome and who will reciprocate the exchange, who is being as gentle and vulnerable with you as you are with them, and who still has more work to do. Not at this juncture. That'll be up to you. That's your reading, Capricorn Rising. Huge love to you. I hope that my enthusiasm rubs off. I hope that you feel this one the way I feel it. Volatile as it is. There's no denying it. All of this initiation, all of this, squares from Jupiter sometimes can feel like too much of a good thing too. Remember that as well. That's just a bit of extra advice. But I think we're going to commit to this optimism. We're going to go for it. And if there is a trip that you're either going on or are on or about to say yes to, then as my patron saint Patsy Stone would say, congratulate yourself, Eddie. Congratulate yourself. It's fantastic, darling. Much love to you, Capricorn Rising. If you're still here with me, put a evil eye in the comments for me, please. That would be awesome. And do let me know how the astrology is working, how you're working with it, how it's showing up in your life. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I shall draw you one and I shall read it to you via Zoom. So you can make your appointment at umaruby.com. If I have read for you before and you'd like to see me again, head over there, pick magic, truth, growth, love, or femme, and we can speak again about the current transits in the sky and your birth chart and the tarot. And you can also support my work at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. You can subscribe to this work for 10 Australian dollars a month. All my love to you, Capricorn Rising. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll speak to you soon for the Pisces new moon on the 10th of March. So until then, take care. Enjoy Pisces season. Hello, Taurus Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Virgo full moon happening on the 24th of February at 11:31 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. So it's a nearly midnight moon that we get to enjoy. Do get out there. Do stand underneath its beautiful light if you can. Do appreciate what the moon is trying to tell you. For you, Taurus Rising, Virgo is in your 5th house of where you express yourself. It's got to do with your creativity, your sexuality, your access to pleasure, all of the things that make life worth living. And so I want you to harness the power of this full moon, and I want you to enjoy it as much as you're able to at this time. I'd maybe think about back to September of last year. If you can cast your mind back that far, if you keep journals, read your entries around the 15th of September, because we were seeding some potential there way back when. We were hoping and planting seeds of potential in the way that you creatively express yourself, in the way you honor your sexuality, in the way that you create art for art's sake. So think about from September to now, and if there's something to celebrate in there, do so. Do so. If you have access to making and creating pleasure at this full moon, do so. Do so. Enjoy it. There's lots of tests in this astrology, isn't there? That initiation of Mars and Venus into Aquarius, having to pass by Pluto, the harbinger of destruction, is being really felt. We're looking up to your 10th house, your most public-facing self, and so that initiation has happened. 2 days before this full moon in Virgo, though, Mars and Venus will conjoin in Aquarius, both not being who they used to be, both having gone through a trial by fire. The lovers of the zodiac coming together in where you're most publicly perceived. I hope that you can feel that resonance. I hope that you can sort of step into the world as the person that you are now, as opposed to who you used to be, as the lover that you are now, as opposed to perhaps the lover that you used to be. When thinking about Pisces, when thinking about the sun and its warmth, the glow and the magic and the majesty of Pisces, when we think about the imagination of Pisces, the intuition of Pisces, right now, being a spotlight into your 5th house of creativity, it's warming up your 11th house, of your friendships, your sense of the human condition, your sense of your humanitarian spirit too. And so what I'm working with in this astrology is two things. The sun is flanked at this moon by Mercury and by Saturn. Now, we understand the feeling of Saturn in Pisces. We have done for the past year or so. We're feeling into its messages. Think about some sense of magical boundary. So if you think about your 11th house, your friendships, your community groups, your sense of the humanitarian spirit, think about what magical boundary, what container has had to be developed over the past bit of time in order to keep your imagination safe, your magic, your Piscean self safe. So we're working with that at this full moon. So maybe there might be some further teasing out that we need to do as far as your self-expression. Or maybe you have been working with that boundary and you're presenting something creative, you're presenting something artful, something beautiful that you've been working on since September. That could be one way to read this. On the other side of the sun, we have Mercury. And unfortunately, Mercury can get very confused in Pisces. They're not at home at all. They're in their detriment, is the technical astrological term for when Mercury is in Pisces. Mercury is much more safe in Gemini and in Virgo. So in an opposite sign, they freak out a little bit. Confusion is the thing. So if there's confusion around your friendship groups, if this magical container, this boundary that you've been projecting has added to some confusion in your friendship groups, this we can talk about this. Remember that we're not doomed to the astrology. It does have a beautiful way of mirroring our lives back to us from out there. That's what Chani Nicholas says, my favorite astrologer. It's a mirror, a cosmic mirror that is showing us the different experiences that we're enjoying in our lives. If the magical boundary has helped you finesse this work, then I'm really proud of you and I can't wait to see it. If the magical boundary has kept you safe from folks that you feel whose energy is not good for you at this time, in order for you to fully express yourself in your creativity or in your sexuality too, that could be something here, a little complex. But that could be a story here too. Things to think about. There's a lot that we get to look forward to this year, Taurus Rising. 5th of March, so a week after this full moon, the dragon will be exactly conjunct Chiron. So this deep work that we're committed to this year about understanding our psychology, being kind to it, taking the appropriate steps to heal, taking the appropriate measures to keep ourselves safe in our unconscious mind, really doing that deep, beautiful work, that healing work that Chiron is so desperately wanting us to achieve. That's happening a week after this moon. So there might be a sort of like an urgency there. I trust that you're in a beautiful, safe space with your inner workings, Taurus Rising. I trust that you've been super kind to yourself and that you've been rolling with the punches and you've been receiving the help that you might need when you need it. This boundary I like. I really do. It sounds peculiar, but I think that Pisces could really do with a healthy boundary from time to time. The limitlessness of that sign and its impressionability can really lead to lots of overwhelm emotionally when thinking about the human condition, when thinking about our friendships and the well-being of our friends. Too much of that you can feel like you're sinking or that you need to hide away because that level of intense emotion is too much to bear. Pisces gets overwhelmed emotionally very easily. It's not their fault. They're the ocean. We love and respect them. The boundary that Saturn is presenting us over the past year into the next year is the lesson. So let's work with that and let's work in healthy friendships too. What I've been learning in my life is that the dynamics in the group change over time. And if you can stick to your guns and be your truest, most honest self and register what you actually require in good friendship and don't budge from that, then you'll be okay. Not every friendship will last a lifetime. Some of them last for a season, and we thank them for that. Some of them go away for a while and they come back too. There's always room for growth and for healing if you're honest with yourself as you are honest with the other. That's the lesson with Saturn in Pisces. I'd love to see, or let me know what you're creating. Show me what you've been working on. Show me what you can feel is just the essence of your expression. When we look at tarot, we look at the Hermit to describe the essence of Virgo. So I can see you in the studio. I can see you laboring away quietly, working on this thing, finessing your talent, creating it. The moon at 5 degrees of Virgo speaks to the 8 of Pentacles. So again, there is this repetition. There is this commitment to the practice, which you should be so proud of. So what is it? What are you making? Is this a reimagining, a reinvention of your access to pleasure? Are you finding yourself coming back into the body now? I hope so. If that was one of your wishes in September, I hope that that's coming to fruition. That beautiful feeling of actually stepping back into the physical self is so miraculously healing. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I look forward to taking myself on that journey even deeper this year. There's so much of my body that is waiting to be reacquainted with my spirit. It takes time and, vulnerable too. Sometimes we go through periods where we don't wish to be touched, and that's completely fine. That's a healthy boundary. Sometimes touch can welcome us back into the body as well, and it's up to healthy boundaries and consent and all of those sorts of things. That's what I look forward to, stepping back into my skin. I've been so spiritually focused lately, so studious, so this. So I am looking forward to embodying some of my spirit moving forward too. FYI. Let's get you some tarot, doll. I'm using one of my new favorite decks. It's a lovely gift from my gorgeous friend Rachel, I'm speaking to Taurus, so hello Rachel. Let's see what comes out. I used this deck. I was reading live last weekend at a festival for 8 hours straight, back-to-back 15-minute readings using my sand timer. And I had all the decks laid out like this for folks to choose which one they felt they wanted to hear from. And this deck by Ashley Cook, I believe, is the artist, was a crowd favorite. This is an interesting story. Okay, this is very go with me, Taurus Rising. I might need some support from my little river rock. Okay, the Hierophant sits before us. So remember in other decks, it's Marie Laveau. It's the Queen of Voodoo. The Hierophant is someone who has devoted their life to some sense of spiritual knowing. They've devoted their lives to the idea of being a bridge from spirit world to the waking world. Sometimes the religiosity, if that's a word, of this card can be a bit confronting for folks. It can look like a pope. Here's you. And that can be jarring. We're sort of like, I don't know how I feel about that relationship. For some people, not all. The essence of the Hierophant is that of the spiritual bridge. So it's someone who is really available and open to the lessons that our guides are urging us to learn. It's also your card. It's the Taurus card. It's the card in the major secrets of the tarot that speaks directly to the essence of Taurus. So there's something that you can identify here with this card, that commitment to keeping your bridge open to spirit world, keeping your bridge open to what your ancestors are trying to tell you, guiding you in the right way. Some folks say it's the intuition, which is true. But this status, this commitment to journeying in the spiritual realms is where we're starting this reading. However, we've hit some major skids. The High Priestess is our intuition. The High Priestess is the one that has every answer to every question that we would ever want to know. The one that is silent in their presence, that doesn't feed the answer to the asker, but encourages them to live their life and to move forward. If this is our intuition, this is someone who's not been listening to their intuition. This is someone that is being roadblocked. Their intuition is roadblocked. And they have been acting in a place that feels combative. We've got the Chariot here in reverse too. So the Chariot, bravery and emotion, initiation into our emotional ecosystem. Cancer on the zodiac. In reverse is self-defense. And so there's a couple of different ways to read these three cards. I would urge you to step back into your position as the bridge, Taurus Rising, to really feel out what it is that you're doing with your spirituality. And here's an example. Stop asking your tarot the same question, expecting a different answer. That's one thing that these three cards could represent immediately. You know, sometimes if you have your own tarot practice and there's something on your mind, and so you'll ask and you get presented an answer, and then you ask again because you'd like another answer, and perhaps another answer, and another answer. And after a while, you either get the same card again and again and again, or you just get gibberish. Tarot is like, there's nothing here for you, I'm sorry. This is not working with our intuition. Tarot is such a great tool for stepping into what we already know. You know, when you hear a message that's resonating, it's because somewhere in there you already know this to be true about yourself. This is something that is the writing's on the wall. If you've been in self-defense and asking, hoping for a different answer, the message here for you now is, darling, is you know the answer. So stop asking, accept it, and work with it. Move with it. Another way to read these three cards is someone has been incredibly defensive and has not been trusting their gut, or has found themselves in a place of needing to be incredibly defensive because they didn't trust their intuition. Their gut was telling them from the very get-go what the outcome of this situation was going to be, and yet our beautiful Hierophant, our beautiful Queen of Voodoo, our Marie Laveau, our bridge, didn't listen. And so the High Priestess was like, well, fine, you figure it out. And so now is the time to act in protection, protective defense, because the outcome of this scenario eventuated in the worst possible way, because you didn't trust yourself, you didn't listen to yourself. So I'll leave all of those answers there with you, Taurus. It could be different for different people. But yes, that was quite a confronting little triptych there. All majors too. And I've never actually seen the High Priestess in reverse, come to think of it. I'm sure that I have, but not recently. And that's something to talk about. You of all people, Taurus Rising, know what the truth is, what you can trust, and that's your belly. If your belly's telling you this will not end well, then it won't end well. So for next time, I urge you to listen to that part of you, because it's the High Priestess speaking to you in silence. That's how she does it. No amount of asking your tarot for an alternative is going to get you one. That's it from me. If you're still here with me, Taurus Rising, can you please put an evil eye for protection for all of us in the comments? That would be awesome. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I shall draw you one. They look like this, and you can make your appointment over at umaruby.com, and I'll read it to you via Zoom and then send it to you in the post. If I have read for you before and you'd like another, head to Uma Ruby. You can pick a truth, growth, love, magic, or femme reading. And I'll read your chart again to you with the current transits in mind. We can prepare in that way, and also some beautiful tarot spreads that I've been developing for those readings as well. So truth, love, magic, growth, or femme. Think it over and let me know. You can head to buymeacoffee.com/umaruby and subscribe to this work for 10 Australian dollars a month. That would be very much appreciated. I'll speak to you in 2 weeks, Taurus Rising, and we'll talk about the Pisces new moon on the 10th of March. Much love to you. Enjoy this success, won't you? Hello Virgo Rising, welcome to your horoscope for the Virgo full moon, happening on February the 24th at 11:31 p.m. if you're in the Southern Hemisphere with me. So it's going to be a great big bright full moon illuminating your first house, your sense of self, your soul's rising intention, everything that makes you, you, that sits somewhere deeper within. We know that our sun sign, the brightest part of our chart, the vitality of our chart, the giver of life, is one thing. Our rising sign, in the esoteric philosophy anyway, speaks to something that lingers beneath, something that is emerging within you, something that will probably take your whole lifetime to fully ascertain, and that's okay. When we think about Virgo in tarot, we think about the Hermit card. I see someone here who is incredibly responsible, incredibly diligent at study, at practice. They've kind of separated themselves from what looks like a conventional, functional social life in order to learn as much as they can about magic, about taking messages that come from somewhere else around them and bringing them down into a tangible, real sense of reality. The hermit in their lantern carries the star, Virgo. They carry our sense of humanitarian spirit. They carry the answers that we need at this juncture in order to turn this life around and make it something that feels a bit more equitable and a bit fairer and a bit kinder and a bit more full of love. Virgo, as a rising sign, has you kind of toiling, has you perfecting, has you thinking about your life, thinking about how you're going to be of best help to those around you. As a Virgo rising, you probably have a lot in common with this 8 of Pentacles card too, which speaks to everything that I've just said. Practice, repetition, diligence, perfection, but not perfection in terms of something being beyond criticism. The term perfecting, trying to make something again and again and again. I love this for you, Virgo Rising, and I hope that that goes to explain a little bit further as to the difference between our vitality, our brightness, our moon, which is our ecosystem emotionally, how we've learned to regulate our feelings, and our rising sign, which comes from somewhere beneath. If you think about mind, body, and spirit, you could say the sun is our mind, the moon is our body, our rising sign is our spirit. And so it will take you your whole life to figure it out. But I love Virgo for all of its spiritual potential, but the essence of realness, the essence of reality that the sign has, of being able to take messages translated over time and bring them down into a living, breathing sense of realness right here, right now. Something that we can work with, actually, rather than just a sort of hippie philosophy, something that is real and measured and perfected. So for that, we really thank you, Virgo Rising. We need your clarity at this time. We need your solutions to some of the mess that we're in. Now, across the way from Virgo is Pisces. We're in Pisces season right now, which speaks to everything opposite to what I've just said. There is magic, there is intuition, there is dreams, there is imagination. It all seems so vast, doesn't it? The empathy of a Pisces is limitless. They will see an animal in pain and cry tears of blood for them, or throw themselves in front of a bus to protect a kitten. You know, they just feel. If you're feeling troubled, they'll know, and they'll not only recognize and register that, they'll actually physically feel it too. So this is your seventh house. This is how you relate to other people. I love this definition, this extra part of you, Virgo rising. You are indeed a Pisces too. Remember, we're every single sign in the zodiac. It's where the signs lay in our makeup and our houses that make the difference. So the sun is warming up your seventh house right now. We're in Pisces season, so we look to your relationships, Virgo rising. We look to the people that you love, people that you can count on and call a friend. And for the past year or so, we've been dealing with a boundary there. We've been dealing with Saturn, who is the planet that has the rings that creates boundary. Some might say creates magical protection. That's being enforced in your relationships at present. It has been for a year or so now. Not only is Saturn there next to the sun, but also Mercury, the planet that brings information and conversation. Now, Mercury hates it in Pisces. They feel very uncomfortable and they get very, very confused. So as far as mixed messaging or crossed wires or a limitation to communication with your friends, this could go to explain some of that or sort of describe that. Remember, we don't use astrology to predict or to blame. We use it to mirror our lives, to give our lives some context when the going gets tough. Channing Nicholas, my favorite astrologer, says that the universe, the galaxy, is a mirror to what we're experiencing right now. And so we feel less alone when things don't feel fair or things feel really unjustified. So when coming and approaching your relationships, part of that work is enforcing and encouraging that boundary. Protect yourself. Perhaps some healthy boundaries struck up between you and your friends at this time is essential. Perhaps some boundaries struck up between you and your loved ones might be pretty essential too. Perhaps that boundary encapsulates the both of you. You're protecting one another against a wall of force. That could be something. Emotions run high with Pisces. There's lots of feeling. So that boundary could be protecting against that too, against these high voltage emotions that are occurring at present. But if we take all of that and then we focus the spotlight back onto you, onto your first house, your rising sign, the eastern horizon, the moment that you took your first breath, that's the point in the galaxy that sort of imbues your soul with its purpose. Your purpose here is Virgo-centered. It's to do with perfecting. It's to do with practicing and being some sort of bridge to spirit land, but calling it down, calling it back in, figuring out from your study how we're going to save our souls, how we're going to move through this life, and how we're going to improve upon it for our children as well. That's what Virgo has got so much interest in, is leaving this place better than how they found it. That's why we love Virgo so sincerely. That's why we can really enjoy their diligence and their perfectionism in that way. They're trying to figure out the rules in order to stick by them, but also to improve upon them as well. Can you feel that, Virgo rising? Can you feel this weirdness perhaps in your relationships? Perhaps there is some closeness, but it's this like almost like a ring of salt that you've had to put around yourself and those that you know that you are protecting at this time, because the emotions are running so high, because all of this is about to sort of burst. Saturn is in your seventh house for a purpose. It's to protect you, and it's also to teach you healthy boundary in your relationships too, so you're not consistently giving everything of yourself to these other people. So you can save some of that for times like these. When there is a full moon in your first house, you want to be sweet to yourself. You want to go through your diaries, perhaps even look at the 15th of September of last year. Look at how life was then for you, and look how it is now. See what progress you've made from then until now, insofar as respecting yourself, respecting and loving who you are, appreciating your skill set as well, as varied as that might be, and as, interchangeable as that might be as well. We've got to celebrate you at this time, Virgo. We really must. We love this part of you, away in the tool shed or away in the workshop, tinkering away at your thing, slowly, slowly. There's not much of a rush here that we feel with Virgo. It can actually take as much time as it needs to, everything in its time and place. So as you're perfecting your relationships with that healthy boundary, you might recognize folks that don't fit into your Saturnian rings at present. There might be some folks that you've needed to give a pretty wide berth at the moment because the emotions are running too high, or perhaps the emotions are not being examined as you might want to examine them. They might be just confronting you with them. You're pretty psychic too. I believe that everyone has that potential, Virgo rising. To have Pisces in your 7th house not only describes the other, it also describes how you interrelate with them too. So as far as your intimacy, it's something sort of important for you to have that kind of gently psychic connection, to sort of know what the other person is feeling in order to make provisions for that in a way that you would expect them to make provisions for you when your emotions might be running pretty high. Let's get you some tarot and we'll see what else we can discover. I think that you actually might need the crows at this time. So let's get them. A week after this full moon, Chiron, our wounded healer, the one that we've been preparing for, the one that we've been discussing for some time, the one that can provide us with a potential soft space to do our healing work, is coming into conjunction with the dragon. So those eclipses in Libra and Aries that we must tend to this year to finish off the story that was begun in October of last year. Aries and Chiron speak to a wounding of self. The dragon is insatiable to find out the reason why. Looking at your birth chart, Virgo rising, we're focused in on your 8th house, how your energy is beholden to that of the other, where you commit and collaborate, where you conjoin, and where we must learn how to say goodbye to the house of grief. So I am gently looking forward to working on doing some grief work here. That'll be the 5th of March, where there's that sort of focus in. But there will be more to come with Chiron. Chiron's playing a big role in our astrology for this year. We could all do with a bit of healthy collective healing. I can see you confronted with this messaging. There seems to be a lot of activity around you, Virgo rising, lots of righteousness, lots of people waving their sword of truth, as it were, on some sort of march or procession to glory or to righteousness, speaking from a place where they feel justified to speak from. This is the central energy that we're speaking to here. This could have something to do with that boundary you've had to set down in your relationships as well. I understand that you've had to set down nostalgia. That's quite obvious. You've got the 6 of Cups in reverse. And so at this present moment, while dealing with these harsher, sharper truths or opinions, you've really had to set down this feeling of nostalgia. Perhaps folks that you did share, your sort of cup of love with from the past seem to be sounding off in a way that doesn't feel kosher to you. It doesn't feel that it's jiving. It could be in opposition to what you believe and your beliefs, or it could be just a really ineffective, inconsiderate way of speaking. And this nostalgic feeling that you've had to set it down. You've had to be like, I can't allow my emotions to be so interwoven with this reality. This isn't to say that I don't love these people, but I can't allow my love for them affect my well-being at this time, because some of what they're saying is really sharp and it's really cutting. And so I've got to register that. I kind of feel that this is going to be something that we're going to be working with a lot this year. I think that you can probably look to Saturn and that boundary in relationships as something really beneficial. This isn't to say that these folks are lying or being manipulative or telling ill truths. Like we can sort of trust the Swords family. However, it's their style that makes the difference. And the Knight of Swords tends to run like a bull at a gate and can be quite inconsiderate. While having to set down that nostalgia, there's room for healing here. There is room for reconnection here. There is something that you're protecting that feels quite valuable too. So maybe if you can consider your 7th house for the next time, for the next few months, with an internal boundary. There's folks that exist within that sacred ring of salt, that protection zone that you've created, that is really, really going to strengthen these relationships and really help them to heal and to grow. There's going to be an opportunity, also to talk about this boundary if you need to. You might have to state it quite clearly. That will be when Mercury is in conjunction with Saturn, which will happen later in the month. But also, there is something to hope for. If it's the internal workings of that boundary, the love will only grow greater and stronger and more resilient. And if we're thinking about the folks in your 7th house that exist in the outer of that boundary, there'll be room for them to come back. There will be conversations to have about reconnection. I really fully, truly, honestly believe that, Virgo Rising, as harsh as it might feel at the moment, or not, maybe, but it's up to you to see how you can read into this astrology for yourself as well. What do you see with Saturn in the 7th? What is the boundary presenting for you? Remember that Virgo holds the star in their lantern. We can look to Aquarius for examples of what it is on Earth we're going to do to survive and to reimagine and to improve. Virgo's been doing that since day dot. Virgo's been following the star, waiting for the star. Remember, the star comes after the tower. So we might have to deal more with this sort of feeling of tower vibes. But this is why you've been studying the star rather than the tower, rather than the impact, the aggression. You've been looking to ways to heal and to maintain and to come back to a place of peace and harmony. So for that, we can thank you, Virgo Rising, so sincerely. That's your reading, my love. If you're still here with me, put a evil eye in the comments. Let's protect each other. Boundary from Saturn, protective ring of salt, and an evil eye will protect us from harm. If you'd like me to draw your birth chart and read it to you, they look like that. And you can make an appointment with me at umaruby.com, my website. If it's your first time, choose the spirit reading, and that includes the drawing that I'll post to you after we're done. If I've read for you before and you'd like to see me again, head to the Back for More tab on the bookings page, and you can choose truth, you can choose love, you can choose growth, magic, or femme. There's little prompts for each of those readings that you can look at. They do include a transit reading of the current sky of astrology in relationship to your birth chart, and also a specific tarot spread for each of those questions. We'll go deep with our intuition. We'll really go deep with the tarot and sort of separate perhaps some of the analysis of the thing and really find what the cards are trying to tell us. So let me know which one you'd like to pick. You can support my work here in Horoscope YouTube land over at buymeacoffee.com. You can subscribe to my work for $10 Australian a month over there. Much love to you, Virgo Rising. I look forward to speaking to you about the Pisces new moon coming up on the 10th of March, which is where we get to sow some seeds in our 7th house. Perhaps we get to ask for relationships that honor our investment moving forward. For now, enjoy this illumination, enjoy this spotlight into your soul's rising potential, your hermit, your diligence, your mutable earth, which is like clay, malleable, sturdy, reliable, here for the long game. I love you, Virgo Rising. I'll speak to you soon.